Good evening. This is the Thursday, March 13th, 2014 meeting of the Jefferson City Planning and Zoning Commission. My name is Ralph Robinette. I am chairman of the commission and will chair this meeting. We will now introduce our council liaison, members of the commission, and city staff that assist us. Councilman.
Rick Mihalovich, council liaison.
Carlos Graham, 4th Ward.
Dale Vaughn.
Bunny Tricky Cotton.
Mike Lester.
Jack Deacon.
Dave Nunn.
Chris Yarnell.
Dean Dutoy.
Kevin Thanen.
Chris Jordan.
Shane Wade, city staff.
Eric Barron, city staff.
The city code authorizes 9 regular members and 3 alternates. Alternates are designated to vote upon the absence or disqualification of any regular members. A quorum of 5 members or alternates is necessary to conduct business. I hereby declare that a quorum is present. Our commission member, Bob George, is absent tonight. Therefore, Bunny, as alternate, you may vote. Are there any members who wish to disqualify themselves or recluse themselves from voting on any of the agenda items? Seeing none. Call for cases. Simply identify that you are here, and we'll get to the testimony later. We have 2 cases tonight. Case number P14004-3507, Amazonia Drive Preliminary PUD Planned Amendment. Is someone here to represent that? Okay. Case number P14005-3327, America Avenue Preliminary PUD Plan. Okay. Do you wish a continuance on any of these this evening? No. We will therefore go forward. At this time, we will have the staff report on the format of the hearing and order of testimony.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like to briefly describe the procedures of the Planning Commission. The proceedings of the meeting are being recorded, so I ask that when you speak, please step to the microphone and give your name and address for the record. For each case, after a brief introduction by city staff, the applicant and applicant's consultants and advisors will explain the case. The opening presentation by the applicant shall be limited to 10 minutes, and the applicant shall be given 3 additional minutes for closing testimony if so requested. We will then ask to hear from any supporters of the request. We will then ask to hear from any opponents of the request. We will then ask to hear from anyone else who wishes to speak on the request. And the testimony from supporters, opponents, or other interested parties shall be limited to 3 minutes each. Rebuttal testimony shall be limited to 5 minutes unless additional time is granted by the Commission. And city staff will then describe the proposal and make their recommendations on the request. In order to reduce the time necessary to hear an application, reference to printed material, including the staff reports, applicable findings, ordinances, and/or statutes, shall not be read into the record unless directed by the Planning Commission. And the Commission will then close testimony from the floor. The Commission will then discuss the proposal and then make a motion on the request. The form of the motion shall be positive. That is, the motion shall be made to accept the request as presented or with any modifications, stipulations, or conditions. And a final vote will then be taken, ayes in favor, nays opposed. And the chairman shall announce the results of the vote, specifying the number of votes cast in favor and the number of votes cast against. And the following documents are entered as exhibits for all items under consideration at this meeting: the City Code as amended, the Comprehensive Plan and Land Use Map, copies of applications under consideration, a list of property owners to whom notices were sent, the affidavit of publication of the public notice in the newspaper, copies of drawings, plans, and/or renderings under consideration, letters or memoranda from staff, the staff reports, the minutes of proceedings, letters, photos, memoranda, or other materials submitted by the public or the applicant, and the rules of procedure for the Jefferson City, Missouri Planning and Zoning Commission. And these items are public record and are available for inspection in the Department of Planning and Protective Services or through the Office of the City Clerk. And please be advised that any items that are presented or otherwise received pertaining to the cases under consideration this evening become the property of the Commission. This includes any photographs, drawings, renderings, petitions, and letters.
Thank you. Our director has now joined us. Would you like to introduce yourself, Ms. McMillan, please?
Good afternoon, Janice McMillan.
Thank you. We do not have any requests to change this agenda as it's printed. Therefore, the chair would entertain a motion to approve the tentative agenda. Have a motion second to approve the agenda. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The agenda is approved. You also have in your packet the approval of the minutes from February. If you would look at those for just a couple moments, if you'd so like that, then we'll approve them.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as submitted.
We have a
Second.
motion. We have a second. We have a second. Discussion, hearing none. All of those in favor of approving the February minutes indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The minutes are approved. We do not have any communication. We do not have any unfinished business. Therefore, we will go to new business. New business, case number 1 P14004, 3507 Amazonia Drive, preliminary PUD. Planned amendment, staff report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First, to orient you to the location of this request. Up on the map, or the screen is a map, the zoning map excerpt showing the location of the property is highlighted with the hatch marks. You'll notice West Truman Boulevard through the screen right here. Amazonas Drive intersects with West Truman Boulevard, and then also Alameda Drive comes down. This is the YMCA, the West YMCA facility located at that property. It's an amended preliminary PUD plan. The property is zoned PUD in order to allow a building addition consisting of 23,000 square feet. There's a little history behind this. The original PUD plan for this property to build the YMCA was approved in November of 2008. So this is basically the next phase for their construction out there to add on to the existing building. This is a 2011 air photo of the YMCA property. You'll see the building there and the parking lot out in front of it. Alameda Drive used to be a city street that ended with a cul-de-sac. This street was vacated by the city, and the YMCA acquired the property over on the other side of Alameda Drive and requested that the city vacate the street. So it's essentially, well, it is a YMCA property now, so they own the street. YMCA also owns this building right here that's just outside the yellow area. The plan is for an addition on the back of the building, essentially where the mouse pointer is right there. Apologies. And then this is the preliminary PUD plan that shows that addition and should be in your packets. You can see the building addition there at the back of the building. There's a gravel driveway that serves as an access to the rear of their building that would be slightly relocated in order to make room for the addition. And then in addition to the addition, the YMCA is designating an overflow parking area on some of the property that they acquired to serve any overflow parking in the area. I do have one picture of the back of the building. This is what the back of the building looks like right now, and this is the Alameda Drive cul-de-sac, which has been vacated, but essentially the addition would be to the back of the building right here. With that, I'd be happy to answer any initial questions, but the consultant and owner might be able to provide more detail on the project.
Okay. Do we have any questions of staff at this time? We will now go to the public testimony. When you testify, if you would please give us your name and address for our records, we would appreciate it. Who is here to present this case?
Good evening. I'm Brian McMillan with Central Missouri Professional Services, 2500 East McCarty Street. And I'm here on behalf of the YMCA tonight, and would like to mention that Mr. Craig Lammers is also here. He's the CEO of the YMCA, and he might be able to answer any questions about the operations of the facility that I can't answer in regards to the plan. But as Eric mentioned, this is about a 23,000 square foot addition to the rear of the building. This is essentially, we're calling it the locker room addition. This location has been very successful for the YMCA, but they are really lacking in locker room space. The existing locker rooms really are oversized bathrooms with a few lockers in them. So I think this will be a welcome addition for the users of that facility. the footprint of the building is about 11,500, a little bit less square feet. The lower level will house the locker room facilities, and the upper level will house a multi-purpose room with some offices for their staff. The addition's been put in the middle of the building, which will afford the opportunity to expand to the east or the west in the future should they feel the need to do that. So that's kind of why we've put it right in the middle. That way the locker room facility will serve whatever expansion goes on either side of the building. So other than that, I'd be happy to answer any questions anybody has.
Any questions? Thank you.
All right.
Is there anyone else here who would like to speak in favor of this proposal? Is there anyone here that would like to speak in opposition to this proposal? Seeing none, we'll close the public testimony. Staff report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The staff report is pretty straightforward and is located, or is in your packets. There is an existing underlying zoning district that was put in place with the original PUD plan of C1 neighborhood commercial. So in the event that there's ever any other uses that are proposed for the property, that's the underlying zoning that staff would look at in order to determine what is permitted or not. The building design is essentially a brick veneer, aluminum storefront, glass and aluminum coping. And the height of the building is a maximum of 32 feet, essentially very, very similar to the existing building. There's no new signage that's proposed. The parking, there are some additional parking spaces that would be delineated along the former Alameda Drive street, and then also the designating an overflow parking area during peak events should accommodate their parking needs for this facility. Staff does recommend approval of the preliminary PUD plan, and the form of motion is at the bottom of the staff report. I'd be happy to answer any additional questions.
Okay. Engineer report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As far as infrastructure, really all infrastructure exists currently with the current development. The only thing that would be changed really would be the storm drainage from the new addition would really flow to the south of the site, and all other items that, such as sanitary, sewer, and sidewalk, all really exist on site currently. Engineering staff would approve this request, recommend approval of this request as well.
Okay, thank you. Any questions of staff?
One quick question. Overflow parking, is that required to be paved? Will that end up having to be done or not?
No. As it's outlined in the zoning code, you're not required to pave the overflow parking. I believe that the YMCA has future phases, planned for this building in the future, so parking will probably come up at a future date in terms of any expansion needs in the future. But at this time, they'd meet their required parking with the paved surface, the paved parking spots that they have, and then because occasionally there is an overflow situation, then they would be able to accommodate that with the overflow parking area. So,
any other questions of staff? Seeing none, the chair would now entertain a motion to approve this request.
I'd move that we approve the request subject to any comments or technical corrections by city staff.
Have a motion and a second. Discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries unanimous. Case P14005-3327 American Avenue Preliminary PUD Plan. Staff report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First, I'd like to call your attention to the revised staff report that is handed out this evening. Made a technical error in the staff report referring to a different underlying zoning district than what actually ended up being put down on the PUD plan. Essentially, the difference between a C1 underlying zoning and a CO. The intent is to follow the CO underlying zoning, which I'll explain here in a moment. But first, to orient you to the location of this request, up on the screen is a location map. You'll notice Missouri Boulevard at the top of the screen and Wildwood Drive down through the middle of the screen. Lowe's Home Improvement Store is located right there. American Avenue is located essentially kind of up the hill behind Lowe's. It's a short dead-end street with a number of office and healthcare-oriented type uses on it. The request is put forward by the trustees of the Missouri Bar and specifically the Office of the Chief Disciplinary Counsel. And they have an existing office building located on the property, on this hatched area. They've acquired additional property right beside their existing building to build a new building. Here's a 2011 air photo of the property. You'll see their existing building is located right here. You see their existing property line. And then they acquired this property over here for a new building. The property is zoned PUD, and this is a PUD plan to construct that new building. And this is the PUD plan, which is contained in your packet. And again, you'll see the existing building just off the side right there. But the new building would consist of a two-story office building with a total of 14,600 square feet. See, I believe the front of the building would be one story, and then the back of the building was actually a two-story type situation. So there are some building renderings contained that were submitted with the application, so you can get an idea on what the building will look like. And then also I have one picture. Now this is their existing building located there on American Avenue. You can see the property they've acquired has been cleared off here to the side. It's really not much to look at right now. It's essentially a cleared piece of property. With that, I'd be happy to answer any initial questions that the consultant and owner may have more details.
Okay, thank you. Any questions, staff, at this time? Okay. Who is here to present P140053327 American Avenue Preliminary PUD Plan?
Hello, Brian McMillan again, Central Missouri Professional Services, 2500 East McCarty Street. As Eric mentioned, we're here for the Office of Chief Disciplinary Counsel, and I will mention that Mr. Alan Pratzel is here. He is the Chief Disciplinary Counsel, and should you have any questions about their operation. But anyway, they've been at this. I'm not sure how many years you've been at this location. Yeah, about 20 years. Recently, it's been a few years back, we added a little parking addition to the back, and I think they've grown now. And probably the last year and a half to 2 years, we've looked at different sites for them around, helped look for different sites around town. And I think this has turned out to be the best option for them to expand at this location. They've bought some land, and should they need to grow some more, there's room to do that. As Eric mentioned, the land was cleared off. If you notice from the aerial photo, the site is covered with nothing but cedar trees, so it was pretty much impossible to do a topographic survey of it without clearing the land a little bit. So anyways, Eric mentioned this is a two-story building, and sits in there nicely on the ridge, and if you have any questions, I'll try to answer them.
Any questions of Brian? Thank you.
All right.
Is there anyone else here who would like to speak in favor of this proposal? Anyone here who would like to speak in opposition to this proposal? Seeing none, we close the public testimony. Staff.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a few of the standard PUD details. It does include a parking lot, and they would meet their parking requirement of 1 space per 300 square feet. Also, the two parking lots could work together, essentially, because they own both properties in terms of providing for a total overall parking for both of their buildings. As far as permitted uses, staff recommends an underlying zoning of CO, office commercial, for the purpose of determining permitted uses. That would follow along very well with the existing uses in the area. In terms of signage, essentially the signage plan is for a small 3x6 monument sign toward the entrance to the site, and then probably a small building-mounted sign as well. Staff would recommend that the signage be in accordance with the underlying zoning district of CO as well. So essentially being allowed anything that would be permitted within the CO zoning district. They did submit a parking lot lighting plan included with their application, the fairly fair level of 2.37 foot candles, which is about average for a parking lot such as this. Staff does recommend approval of the proposed preliminary PUD plan, and then certainly the design and layout of the office building and parking lot is very similar to the character of this area and should fit in nicely. The recommended form of motion is at the bottom of the staff report, and again, it's slightly revised due to the inaccurate underlying zoning references of the original staff report. Be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. Engineering report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Most infrastructure exists mostly in the development in this area. All stormwater drainage from the site is being directed to the undisturbed area to the south and to the east of the portions of the site. There's a private sanitary sewer grinder system that's being proposed to be used from the new building to access the existing main on the western portion of their existing site. Sidewalk is required on this portion of American Drive. However, there is no other sidewalk existing in the area, so I believe we would entertain a deferral for sidewalk for this proposed project. A new drive entrance is also being proposed to access American Drive, and then also access their existing drive for their existing facility. And as Eric had indicated, they're showing parking lot lighting that would serve the new proposed parking lot, and then also I believe they do have one shown to serve the front of the existing parking lot on the front side of that facility. There's also an additional fire hydrant that's being proposed along the frontage there on the new piece of the proposed development. Engineering staff would support approval of this request.
Any questions of staff? Yes, Chris.
I don't know if this is a Shane question or an Eric question, but on the handout that we received tonight, I know the green lines with the red dots mean sewer lines or manholes. What's the red dots with green around them out in the middle of the site? Is that just something we got left on there? There's maybe trees or something? Trees, okay. Thank you.
I've got a question too about the sidewalk. The sidewalk's going to be deferred. Is that what you said? Are proposing a deferred sidewalk?
Yes, there is a deferral process for sidewalks, and that's outlined in the city code. Oftentimes sidewalks, when they're associated with PUD plans, get presented to this commission, and in terms of ensuring that the sidewalk is on the plan, along with the rest of the elements of a site design. In this case, there are no other sidewalks on American Avenue, but sidewalks are shown on the city's sidewalk master plan as being required along American Avenue. So they are required to build sidewalks, but they can request that that requirement be deferred until a future date for a number of different reasons that are outlined in the city code. And because of the existing situation with no sidewalks being out there, we essentially expect them and encourage them to submit that deferral application, and then it, of course, be evaluated and probably approved.
So basically, when it comes to a deferral as far as sidewalks go, if the corner building wanted to do something and they were required for a sidewalk, then maybe you might kick that defer in at that time to make it,
Yes, there's the idea behind the deferrals is over time there might be a number of different properties along a stretch of street that receive deferrals, and there might be some threshold that gets met where there's enough properties there that in conjunction with possibly a city project or something that can piece together an actual sidewalk project to be constructed there, or enough properties on there that is essentially, ideally, if all of them were under this deferral language, then the city would notice them all up and notify them it's time to construct sidewalks, and then have a complete sidewalk at that time. So
Yeah, I think it makes perfect sense to do it that way instead of having a sidewalk to nowhere. So
yes,
I agree.
Are the sidewalks shown on the PUD plan tonight? Or are they in the PUD plan as submitted? And if they are, then do we have to get a motion to take them out, or what do we do about the deferment? Or do we approve this and the deferment comes and the modified goes before the council?
The deferment is an administrative action. They can apply for the deferral to the department, and it's an action that essentially the department director can rule on that deferral. It's not the Planning and Zoning Commission's role to rule on a deferral in this situation.
So even if it's in this plan and we approve it, there's nothing procedurally wrong with you all deferring it later?
Well, the sidewalks, as shown on this plan, there's actually a note that the sidewalks are going to be requested to be deferred. So that is known. We expect a deferral request from them. And but no, this body does not have to take any action one way or the other in regards to the sidewalks. Sidewalks are not shown on this. It's shown that the area would be graded for a future sidewalk, so that it could be installed easier, but not installed, with this plan, assuming the deferral gets granted.
Any other questions of staff? I believe they have recommended a form of a motion here on the agenda that they have given us here. I believe it's a motion with 3 following conditions. If anyone has that, if they would want to try the motion.
I can do that, Mr. Chairman. I move that we approve the preliminary PUD plan with the following conditions. A, an underlying zoning of CO, office commercial, be established for the purpose of determining allowed uses. B, signage shall be in accordance with requirements for property zone C0. And C, compliance with comments and technical corrections by city staff.
Thank you. Do I have a second? I have a motion and a second. Discussion. All in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Motion passes unanimously. Other business. Scheduled reports. Michael, do you have a report for us tonight, sir?
I do not. I was out of town and didn't attend the last commission meeting, so I don't have a report.
Any other reports? Yes, Ms. McMillan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would just like to invite everyone to participate in the Capital Area Metropolitan Planning Organization project prioritization process. You may have received an email that advised you of this process. You can go to the website at www.jeffcitymo.org Campo and take the survey. There's a values survey, and also enter your suggestions on transportation priorities. We're participating with Missouri Department of Transportation to identify projects that may be included on their long-range transportation plan for the next 10 years.
Thank you. Do you have the dates on that?
You can go online anytime and do those surveys.
Okay.
We're also
Survey.
having a public meeting, though. I can follow up on that. Tuesday, March 25th, across the hall in the Boone Bancroft meeting room from 4 to 6:30 p.m., and that's Tuesday, March 25th.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Any other reports? Seeing none. Thank you for coming. We're adjourned.
And I apologize for not getting the other screen working this evening. Unfortunately, sometimes if you try to fix them, they shut off and they stay off for several minutes. So I'll try to do better at that in the future. Thanks.